There's definitely something very weird going on here.
Detective Roger Mortis has a problem. He's dead. But Detective Bigelow is bringing him back alive.
We have something on the monitor, Captain.
That's okay. Don't get up. Told you not to get up.
Now, he's got 12 hours to solve the toughest murder case of his career. His own.
What is this thing? Very ugly. Get down!
Remember the good old days when guns killed people?
That's it. From now on, I'm a vegetarian.
How do you fight this thing? Maybe we could drown it in A1 sauce.
Treat Williams
Sit down.
and Joe Piscopo are dead heat.
You shoot them, they don't die.
You can't keep a good cop dead.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of Reconcinimation. I'm your host, John Diner.
I'm David Munchak.
I'm Brent Hutchins.
And this is the podcast that takes a look back at some of our favorite films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we're checking out how they hold up today. And we have a yet another special episode for the conclusion of our sizzling summer of sensational cinematic shenanigans. It's a very special episode for a couple of reasons. We recently lost the great Treat Williams, who was just a fantastic actor whose career has ranged from TV to features and, high quality features, maybe some not as high quality features. And he's actually somebody that I worked with. I worked on a show called Brothers and Sisters, and he was part of the family that was on that show. So we're going to look back at one entry from his career, which is Dead Heat.
Yeah.
Probably his proudest role.
Speaking of high-end features, let's go.
His finest moment. That's right. 1988's Dead Heat. And in order to do that, we had to bring on another new friend, a new guest. And to do that, it had to be one of our founding members of the Santa Fe Loonies. It's Emmy-winning editor, Jarrod Burt.
Thanks for. I'm more like the Susan Lucci of the Creative Arts Emmys, but I appreciate the intro there, Jonathan.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. We now, Jarrod, you and I have a long storied love affair with Treat Williams. Isn't that true?
We sure do, and I would throw out Cam for a portion of that, due to Deep Rising, and I don't know if it was his love for that movie that sort of pushed us onto Treat, or well, I mean, you liked him before, obviously, for some of his earlier stuff, but that movie I just remember left an impression on us, especially throughout our college years.
It was deep.
I don't know.
It was Deep Rising for sure that took our love for Treat to a whole different level. It took it to the stratosphere, and we had a friend at the time who was all over horror movies, and Deep Rising was a film that I think it had just come out. Like it had just come out on DVD, and we watched that many times because that is we almost chose that for this episode, but we went with Dead Heat instead.
Is Deep Rising like one of those like underwater like Leviathan Abyss type
on like a
movies?
cruise ship?
Deep Star
cruise
6, in that same vein.
Yeah,
all those are classics. So Deep Rising must be fantastic. I don't know that I've seen it.
It's pretty great.
I don't think I watched it with you and Cam.
Highly recommend it. Highly recommend Deep Rising.
I'm not sure if there's a movie that me personally have ever rewound like multiple times in a 5-minute span just to rewatch moments. You know what I mean? The DVD, we would legit rewind it 30 seconds and then crack up for 10 minutes and then play it for 5 minutes, rewind it, watch the same. It was just, I've never done that more in a movie than Deep Rising for some reason.
All right. What's the most rewatched scene in that movie?
Oh, easy, John. Do you know what I'm going to say right now?
Go for it. Yeah.
There's a point where is it Jaimin Hunsu? Is that how you say his name?
Yes.
Yeah. He's literally like they're breaking into the safe and he's all excited and he's like money, 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 and the door opens and immediately he gets hatcheted in the head. And the prosthetic face and it's just like, you can't see what I'm doing obviously because it's a podcast, but his face and his eyes look so awesome. It's incredible. I highly recommend that one moment and your life will be changed forever.
I'm gonna search it right after the show.
Money, money, money.
It's
like sound effect.
It's perfectly edited, that sequence right there.
I'm impressed that you just had that off the top. Like you were like, I know which scene it is. I know exactly which scene it is.
Listen, I think about that moment on the daily.
It's a movie that is, probably an hour, 40 minutes, and it would take us about 4 hours to get through it. Rewind, watch. Yeah.
And the cast is great in that movie. Like Jaimin Hunsu is such a great actor and
Famke Jensen and Jason Fleming, and there's a whole bunch of people in that movie.
Yeah,
all this love for Deep Rising, and
we're covering Dead Heat.
We're talking about Dead Heat.
Well, it was Deep Rising though that led us to Dead Heat. Dead Heat's it's a movie that I feel like I had seen bits of it, after it came out on video, but never all the way through. And we fell so deeply in love with Treat from Deep Rising that we then immediately watched Dead Heat, and then he keeps going up a notch every time. And then not long after that was the Substitute movies. Boom, up, up, up. It just keeps going. But so before we get into Dead Heat though, let's take a look back at the career of Treat. And David, did you know a little bit about Treat? Can you walk us through?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, Treat Williams, legendary actor, comes from a humble beginnings. He's born in December 1st, 1951 in Connecticut. So he's a couple weeks off from being the new baby Jesus. Didn't quite make it. But
very close, very close.
It's actually exactly. He's actually a descendant of both P.T. Barnum and President Herbert Hoover. Hoover was the, I want to say 31st president of the United States. So for all you non-Americans, that's one of our most favorite presidents. That's where Treat Williams comes from. He was a bit of a jock in high school, and in college, but he definitely leaned into the theater kids kind of thing. So he was doing theater with school and in the community in the 70s, starring in like Grease and Over Here. And he made his feature film debut in 1975 with Deadly Hero.
75. Wow, that's
yeah.
You don't think about that. He was around as long as he was.
Yeah, like that's pretty good early start for him, because for me, I was late to the Treat Williams party, as we'll talk about, but so he had a long career before I was even aware of what he had been doing. But he was in Milos Forman's Hair from 1979, and that's what kind of made his career take off. And he got great reviews and was definitely that's a well regarded project. Yeah. And he was among the cast there, well regarded. And so he continued working, and through the 80s, he's not exactly like the leading man superstar, but he's certainly a like utility player. So, and he'll do anything. So he would show up in all sorts of different projects. So let's say 1941, he has a uncredited appearance in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, isn't he like one of the Hoth like soldiers?
He's one of the Echo Base troopers.
That's it. Yeah,
Echo Base. So,
my son would kill me for not getting that right.
If you don't get the terminology right, you're not a true fan.
Stay away, kids. You need John.
He got a Golden Globe nomination for Prince of the City, and you see him in other things like The Pursuit of D.B. Cooper, Once Upon a Time in America, Flashpoint, Smooth Talk. And he's a busy guy. He had 4 movies out in 1988.
One of which we're talking about today.
Oh yeah. And then you'd see him more in the continue like the career actor path in the 90s. But he again elevating every movie that he's in. So things like Things to Do in Denver, Mulholland Falls, The Phantom, which we've tangentially talked about.
We did
in recent weeks.
We did mention The Phantom.
Yes.
Devil's Own, Deep Rising, which I saw the poster says full scream ahead as the tagline. I'm like,
didn't Stephen Sommers direct Deep Rising?
He sure did.
Yeah. Which was, he did that right before The Mummy. So that's what we're talking about. Anyway,
it was his tryout, and it got him The Mummy.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was his big sizzle, his like $20 million sizzle reel for The Mummy, right? Or probably more than that.
There's a great jet ski scene with Treat and Famke Janssen that's all over the trailer too. So
is it a sexy scene?
More of an ass kicking kind of scene. But...
Oh, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And he took over the role that Tom Berenger originated in multiple sequels of The Substitute.
Yes, and that's where I coined the phrase, when Berenger says no, Treat says yes.
Yeah. And I like that Berenger Substitute. And then I think when there were sequels, I'm like, oh, Berenger's not in it, I'm not interested. But little did I know it was Treat Williams before I knew who Treat Williams was. So I missed out.
Those are fun movies. The Substitute sequels.
I've never. Yeah, I want to. I kind of want to see them now.
Winner Takes All.
They're still available. You can still watch.
I got time later today, so I probably will pop a couple in. And then of course, he wasn't restricted to just feature films. He'd be popping up on television with continuous roles. So he was on, let's see, through the 90s, Good Advice, Everwood, which was on the WB.
Yeah.
Like I want to say early 2000s. That's where I got to know Treat Williams. Like I sort of knew who he was, but I watched the first season of that, and I dug that show.
I think that's where we're, on a mass level where he got mostly well known from was Everwood. That was a popular show, went I think 4 or 5 seasons, and he was I don't know, I don't remember if he was quite the lead, but he was definitely the face of the show.
Yeah, but he's in almost 90 episodes, so it's like
he's the dad. He's the
dad. Yeah, he's the heart of the show of that nature. I mean, yeah, because it's about the young people, his fam. It's about his family, but he's the patriarch of the single dad of this family, I guess. And I think, and that's on a younger skewing network, so it was actually like a new generation, I think, got to know him through that. That's where audiences also got to know Chris Pratt.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, he had recurring on Brothers and Sisters.
Yeah.
And
I was, when I met him, he's one of those guys that I froze. I don't get starstruck by the big stars, but when I met Treat, it was like I don't know what to say because I'm in
some
awe
butterflies.
Right now.
Got some butterflies there, John.
Yeah.
I know that feeling. That's like Ken Jeong in me. That's when John, you were there when Ken Jeong was in a hallway.
Yeah.
You had been working with, but I mean, I had nothing to say to him for any reason, so I wasn't gonna. But
Yes.
also Blue Bloods, I think, and and then various guest stars at Batman the Animated Series, The Simpsons, We Own This City, and and just if you look at his IMDb, just lots of appearances and films and movies that so as of this recording, he had passed just very recently. We're probably releasing this a little bit later than that down the line, so but we wanted to take the time to honor him, and with picking one of which might as well be one of his favorite movies that he's ever done.
Guys, this movie's a classic.
But we will miss him, and let's talk about the things that really get us going about Dead Heat.
That's the interesting thing about Treat, is that he had this, the guy is in Once Upon a Time in America, and within 4 or 5 years of that, he's in Dead Heat, and he's having, you can tell he's having a great time in this movie, and he liked doing the Dead Heats and the Deep Risings. He knew what they were, and he didn't care. He was okay playing those kind of roles, and I think because he was such a strong actor, he did make those movies better. Without Treat and Dead Heat, I don't know what that movie would have been.
Oh yeah, I mean, he absolutely elevates the movie. This movie is it holds a soft spot in my heart. I kind of consider it a cousin movie to things like Return of the Living Dead, or even in some weird way, Big Trouble in Little China, but very deep, third cousin of Big Trouble.
Very, very distant, right?
Yeah, very distant cousin of that. And there's just certain scenes that kind of take me back to those places. But his acting in this, as cheesy as all the shenanigans that are happening throughout this movie, he plays the kind of the deadpan straight character, the dry character, so perfectly in this movie that it really grounds it, and kind of it raises it up, right? Because to your point, John, without Treat in this movie, would be
it's always amongst the chaos, you need someone to ground it, and I think that he's able to do that and know when to comedically, when to be even more deadpan than maybe he wants to be. And it's just, I don't know, he's there's so many great lines from him in this, and he does ham it up a little, with the last line, which is my favorite line we'll get to later, but some of the well, I'm fucking dead, lady, he just he says it so deadpan, and what you said, I think, John, was he just doesn't have any ego about this stuff. He just enjoys it, and he does it, and he loves it, and you could tell in the performance, I think, a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, he's so dry, but it's all tongue in cheek, and just, I mean, it's he's doing it. It all feels very wink, wink, nod, nod. We're all in on this joke together, and for me, this movie's really bad and really great and totally entertaining because of all of it.
Yeah.
Well, and because of the way he plays it straight, I was thinking not that we should who could have played it, and I would be maybe a Charles Grodin or a Tom Berenger type would kind of slot in, but I think it's because of the kind of guy that Treat Williams is, the way he performs, that's just so evenly even keeled soft spokenness, whereas the other two probably would fit okay, but it'd be a totally different performance with a lot of they have a lot of sort of ego and power behind their performances all the time, and it would be too much. So you really need when you're a duo with Piscopo, you got to know what level to bring your energy, and it can't be too much, because Piscopo's he's electrifying with the energy that's coming through.
Yeah, he is bouncing off the walls.
Yeah, I mean, some of those other actors you mentioned, had they been in this movie, the comedy wouldn't have come across the way it did with Treat. Like Treat can ride that line where he can play serious, he can play comedy, he can kind of do it all. A Berenger, like especially at the time right after Platoon, and even in Major League, like he's more serious. He's the more serious character. Like he can't. I don't think he would have been able to play that lighter tone that Treat did.
It would. I mean, it wasn't something we would be expecting of him back then.
Yeah,
at the time. So yeah.
David, do you want to catch everybody up too? I mean, maybe it's just a maybe that people listening to this may not have seen Dead Heat recently. It's just there's a chance.
Pause the podcast right now. Go watch it. We'll wait for you.
Sure. Yeah. It's written by Terry Black and directed by Mark Goldblatt.
That's a brother of Shane Black.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yeah, older brother of Shane Black.
Long time listener Shane Black, long time discussee Shane Black. What is that?
Long time subject.
Yeah, there you go.
So written by Terry Black, directed by Mark Goldblatt. Dead Heat is about a duo of LA cops named Roger and Doug who play by their own rules, guys. And during their investigation into a new criminal element in town, one of them is killed. And even though Roger is dead, that doesn't mean he stops being a cop. Roger's resurrected and races against the clock, fully decomposing while battling PR reps, unstoppable zombie gangsters, and the maddeningly wealthy elite of Southern California.
Boom. There it is.
Nailed it.
There it is.
So what an adventure it's going to be.
You may not think you need to see it with that fully encapsulating summary, but you should still check it out.
It's such an interesting combination of movies too. It's right in the mid to late 80s, but it's a zombie movie, it's a comedy, it's a buddy cop movie, it's an action movie, it's a little bit of everything. Perfect for Treat.
It's a product of the time, right? Because buddy cop movies at that time were leading up to the late 80s kind of sporadic, but then once Lethal Weapon hit, like that was so huge that every studio was trying to do their spin on what that next buddy cop adventure would be. You got things like Alien Nation, you got things like Samurai Cop, you got all sorts of different types of mixes of like random characters matched together, and this just happened to be in that kind of vein of buddy cop.
I feel like it was such a big thing in the 80s, right? The whole buddy cop genre.
Starts with 48 Hours and then just goes, and then right, like you were saying, Brent, after Lethal Weapon, it's like that 87, 88, 89
like Stakeout,
range.
Another Stakeout, like all of them.
Beverly Hills Cop,
Red Heat.
Yeah.
Red Heat. Yep.
What year was Lethal Weapon? Do you guys
87.
know?
87.
87.
Yeah.
So this is a year
so
later.
This is very much like this and Alien Nation and like Double Team with Jean-Claude Van Damme and all those. Like those are all like
Terry was like, "I'll show you, Shane."
Yeah, direct spinoffs of like the success of Lethal Weapon. Like everybody was trying to capture that again, right? Because it's monkey see, monkey do. That's how we do it.
Running Scared was another one that I actually just saw recently for the first time. But buddy cop movies, you can't go wrong there with an 80s buddy cop movie.
Oh, no way.
Then you throw Treat and Piscopo in, forget about it. All right. So when was the first time you guys saw this movie? Brent actually, Jared, why don't we start with you?
Well, I want to say the first time and the only time that I've probably seen it up until recently for us watching it was after we watched Deep Rising. I think that was the only time. And honestly, dude, I know we were texting about this yesterday or whatever. I was like, I didn't remember all the twists in the movie. I didn't remember that there was so much death. I was like, everyone's dead, basically. I'm like,
it's called Dead Heat, dude.
Legit, everyone is dead. Everyone.
Yep.
I texted John. I was like, I did not remember that at all.
I didn't either. watching it this time was basically like watching it for the first time again.
Yep.
That there was so much. I mean, I guess I just remembered maybe I had had a little bit of alcohol the first time we watched it. Also, it was a while ago. But I did not remember. I did not remember Vincent Price was in it. Darren McGavin, you know, the half the cast that's in it. But yeah, same for me. Brent, what about you?
I did know Vincent Price was in it because I remember it was like one of the very last things that he did before he passed away. I mean, I know he was in a couple other things, but like I was a pretty big Vincent Price fan. I've always liked scary movies, obviously, but even the old ones like Pit and the Pendulum and The Fly and all that stuff. Like I was a big, because those were like right in my mom's wheelhouse, and she's the one that kind of introduced me to horror movies. So the first time I saw this actually was probably, it was like a summer rental. Like I couldn't pinpoint exactly, but probably summer of '89, like right after it came out on VHS. And I loved it. But I was 11, and it's perfect for an 11-year-old who's allowed to see bananas dead zombie movies, because it's super cheesy. And I mean, the humor, a lot of the Piscopo humor is very adolescent. Like it's, and you're not expecting much, right? So I've always known who Treat is. Like since then, I've always, admired this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. Probably saw it a handful of times as a kid, but hadn't really seen it again since, maybe the early 90s, mid 90s. And so rewatching it now was definitely, there were a lot of, like, I remember bits and pieces, but man, like the whole, like, Peking duck scene and the like the Chinese restaurant kitchen battle. And, there's so many things in here that I had completely forgotten about. But I'm glad we're doing it, because some of those things are pretty fantastic.
Yeah. David, what about you? First time watch?
First time watch for this one. And there's things in this I did not expect that would be in this. That just, the unexpected deaths, the scenes that Brent just mentioned, just like, what the hell? Like it's no holds barred. They just did whatever. Pretty wild. It's like, it's way more out there than you'd expect. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So this was an interesting thing.
I was going to say, as a first time, like, I mean,
yeah.
I saw it as a kid. John and Jarrod saw it, under the influence of probably booze and Cam Belden and the Deep Rising wave,
the dangerous combo
of the college years. What did you like? Untethered. What was your experience like seeing it the first time at this point in your life?
It was kind of it was sort of a surprising sort of treat.
It was a treat, you say?
Yeah,
it was a treat.
No pun intended. It was really weird, and it's just like, these freaking movies, man.
Like, the summer of Shenanigans it's not disappointing. Like, they're all,
Jesus Christ.
when your most grounded summer Shenanigans movie is One Crazy Summer, you're dealing from the bottom of the deck, like you're
which is bizarre in and of itself.
Oh, for sure.
So,
all right, interesting. I can't imagine having just seen it for the first time and being like, oh, that was exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, no, there's no way to have predicted any of it, like, as a first time viewer. So
when I was watching it this time, I was thinking they pushed it in those weird zones a few times, the cutlery coming to life and the ducks and put some A1 sauce on, how do we kill this thing? Drown in A1 sauce. I was almost hoping they would do it a little bit more in a couple spots. I thought there were a couple missed opportunities, but maybe that's from me having seen a gazillion movies over my lifespan and seeing sort of, what Raimi was doing with some of the Evil Deads and some of that. But
I think they actually originally the script was written, at least from what I've read, and it was a little bit more in a lot of places, but the studio dialed it back.
I had read that too, and I was thinking, oh man, that's probably why there's only a few of those moments. Because if you go for those moments, you're just going, right? So I was expecting a little bit more.
There was supposed to be like a death day.
Yeah, there's like a death day party
right?
scene.
And there was
they mention it a lot, but you never see it. They actually had one in there. Yeah,
I think they shot it and then didn't cut it in. But I mean, when you look at the poster, though, it looks like your typical buddy cop movie from the 80s, right? I mean, it looks like, this is coming out right after Dragnet, which I remember. I think that was a big movie. I remember it being a big movie. Maybe it wasn't, but it was.
I remember it being a big movie, right? That was Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was a huge TV show.
Yeah. And it was the 80s, attempt at a reboot. But so you don't really, looking at the poster, that doesn't quite match up to exactly what the movie is, because the movie is, it's a mashup of a Frankenstein movie and a buddy cop movie and a horror, but it's like a zombie horror comedy, but different than other zombie movies. So there's no virus that's being spread that's making people become zombies, right? Like not in the same way as your Walking Deads, and it's more of a Frankenstein kind of zombie movie.
Yeah, that's I think that's accurate. I wouldn't even really call it like a horror movie though, right? Like it's definitely zombies, but it's much more in the and this is why I say it's kind of a cousin to Return of the Dead or Return of the Living Dead, right? Because it's kind of comedy, tongue in cheek. It's aware of itself, and it doesn't try and do any horror tropes other than we've got zombies, but it's just like a buddy cop movie with zombie makeup, right? So
it's almost like a police procedural at times too.
Yeah,
because they go from how police procedurals or revenge movies, they go from one person to shake them down to the next person who gives them the info. They shake them down, and then the plot unfolds. And there's so many twists and turns in this bad boy. I was like, really? There's another plot twist with this one girl.
Oh my god,
bonkers.
What's her name? Rebecca Smithers, who is
that's the coroner, right?
Yeah,
that's
who is the coroner and ex-wife of Treat Williams' character Roger Mortis.
Rigor mortis.
Roger Mortis, get it?
Yeah. No. Thank God she's in this movie, because we as an audience need her to explain what the hell is going on, and she knows everything.
Listen, we also need
all
her.
The answers.
Yeah, we also need her to bring him back to life.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because without her, he'd be dead. I mean.
Yeah.
She figures it all out.
in 20 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously intuitive, the machine. You just have to press a bunch of blinking buttons and you're good to go.
This felt like this could have been a pilot of a Fox show or something like
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. 80s Fox show for sure.
Yeah, he would just be an undead cop for the rest of the series, and they fight other undead people and solve crimes. And
you just lose the ticking, the ticking clock of him expiring, or make it longer or something.
Every episode he loses another body part, and he's like, "Meh."
It really because it is that conventional 80s cop movie where they're getting yelled at by the captain, and they're both they're under double suspension, so they better watch themselves.
Not just single suspension, but
by the way,
probation.
That first scene when they're stopping the jewelry heist from the zombie robbers with the masks, and he's like, "I'm gonna borrow your car, Lieutenant." And then so 50 cops have been shot in the head.
Yeah,
it's exploded. And then the cop is like, he crashes his car and he's like, oh man, and he's so sad about his car. I'm like, dude, your boys just died. Like 50 of them just got shot. And he's like, you really jacked up my car, buddy.
Yeah.
That opening sequence is the robbery at the jewelry store is straight out of like a Lethal Weapon. It's your standard, cop confrontation sequence, and that's where we meet our characters, which is, as we mentioned, Roger Mortis for Treat Williams and Doug Bigelow for Joe Piscopo. Now, I know this is a Treat Williams centric episode, but David, you got to be a Piscopo pal, right?
I'm a Episcopalian, man. No, I don't have super strong feelings about Joe Piscopo, but they skew on the positive. So, like I liked his I remember his Saturday Night Lives. Like I remember that era of him specifically, and then I remember him like showing up on like comedy half hours and other TV shows and stuff like that. So to give him this role with the absolute worst zingers and all that stuff, it's perfect Piscopo. Like I'm sure he was trying to ad lib some of these and writing them on his own. Some of these, I don't know.
Do you guys have any thoughts on him constantly eating in the movie? Did you notice he was like, he's got a hot dog and then he's eating some noodles and then
it's kind of like Brad Pitt.
That's the Brad Pitt school of acting.
Yeah, he doesn't know what to do with his hands. So
Brad Pitt, maybe Brad went to the Piscopo school of acting.
Could be.
I think that's what happened.
Or the Denzel school. I think Denzel also is a bit of a muncher.
Really?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, a little bit.
Some actors want something to do. They always want something to do. But eating is hard. You got to do dialogue, and it gets.
I just rewatched Ocean's 11 like a couple weeks ago, and it is comical. Like Brad Pitt's great in that movie, but there's not a single scene that he's in that he's not putting something in his mouth, like eating or whatever. Like it's
a real thing.
It's kind of bananas.
Piscopo. Oh, go ahead, David.
I was like, I think it's like a substitute for like smoking. Where like characters used to be interesting and they would smoke on screen all the time.
Yeah, totally.
I think it's just like, well, we can't smoke anymore, so let's give me something interesting to do. Okay.
Yep.
Sunflower seeds and cupcakes, whatever.
All of it together.
Just give me whatever the fuck.
Hot dogs in the convertible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vaping doesn't look as cool as smoking did, so now they're just like, let's just eat.
Yeah.
Going back to Joe Piscopo, though, he was. I think people forget how important he was to the survival of Saturday Night Live. It was Eddie Murphy and Piscopo. Eddie Murphy gets all the credit now, but it was really the two of them together in a lot of those skits, and they were the only two that survived that tumultuous 1980-81 season where it almost got canceled, and then they sort of relaunched it with a different cast.
I only really know Joe Piscopo from this and the best Eddie Murphy's Best of Saturday Night Live. There's one scene that he's in where it's like Ebony and Ivory. They're like Stevie Wonder and it's Frank Sinatra. It's hilarious. It's great. But like the reason that Eddie Murphy gets all the love for saving that is because they didn't do a Best of Saturday Night Live Joe Piscopo, man.
You're right. You're totally right.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I saw the Best of Eddie Murphy Saturday Night Live probably 100 times. But
yeah.
Where's the Piscopo one?
I know. It's in the works. I hear.
Oh, yeah. Better late than never.
My siblings used to record Saturday Night Live and had those from like when I wasn't old enough to watch them originally, like the Piscopo ones, but we still had them. So like we would replay them and then I can see him on stage. I can't recall the sketches anymore, but I know it.
There's one called the Doug and Wendy Weiner, the Weiners. That's a great Piscopo skit. Check that one out. There's a whole bunch that don't really get any airtime anymore, but it's worth checking out. And he and Eddie were like kind of behind the scenes, were like a team, and they worked together and they stuck together and they left the show together. And then Eddie's career took off and Joe's career kind of didn't. He definitely did some movies. He did Johnny Dangerously, did Wise Guys, and of course Dead Heat. And he changed his look. Like I remember him becoming a big fitness guy. You know, he was doing stand up in the mid and late 80s, but his fitness stuff, because he's like ripped and huge compared to when he was on Saturday Night Live. He was just kind of a tall, skinny guy. But and then the 90s came, and he's another one of those guys that just vanished. when 1990 hit, January 1st, it was like he was gone. Well, he probably eagerly awaiting Dead Heat 2. So, Jarrod, how do you feel about Mark Goldblatt as the director of this movie? Mark Goldblatt is a legendary editor. I also had the honor of working with him, but did a lot of James Cameron's early movies.
Well, I had no idea until I started researching the film, probably right before we watched it, that he was Cameron's editor, and I got so stoked, you know, looking him up and realizing that he was, I'm like, he is the guy, right? I mean, so many great films in his filmography as an editor.
Yeah.
Not many in his directorial pocket.
Sometimes you got to stay in your lane, I guess.
But yeah, I had no clue that he was Cameron's editor for so long. And
yeah, I mean, he did all the early great Cameron films.
Yeah,
I mean, all of those plus other classics like Rambo: First Blood Part 2, Commando, Nightbreed, Predator 2,
Showgirls,
The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah, I mean,
don't you forget the iconic film XXX State of the Union.
How
you
can
dare
you
forget
not,
that one?
Jonathan?
How can you?
Jonathan worked on that one.
He sure did.
Yeah, he is a great editor, though. I will say that, and it's really cool that he brought this amazing piece of art that we're talking about today to life.
That's true.
Along with Terry.
Treat and Joe arrive at the jewelry theft and take out after great effort, take out the thieves who are coming immediately back to life. So right away they realize something's wrong here, so the bodies go to the morgue where we meet Roger Mortis's ex-wife Rebecca, who's seen these guys before, right? Wasn't that she like recognizes them, that they've been in the morgue before?
Yeah. Yep. Yes.
Yeah, she remembers operating or like doing the autopsy on them, and
she finds a chemical in their system called sulfathiazole.
Sounds legit.
And she knows everything about this chemical.
He created it. She didn't.
She didn't. No. But she knows who
might
did.
As well,
right?
Yeah.
Oh, and we meet the I guess, what is he, like the head coroner, played by Darren McGavin.
He's the boss of the coroners somehow.
There's a lot of layers.
Yeah, coroner boss.
What's his license plate say?
Body doc.
Body doc.
Yeah.
Body doc.
Okay.
Doesn't that sound like somebody who's doing like, I mean, that to me is like someone in Beverly Hills who's like a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway.
But I love Darren McGavin so much, but he does not play this character any differently from any of his other characters.
No.
From the dad in Christmas Story or Happy Gilmore or whatever. Like, he plays it the same kind of energy and tone, whether he's good or, as it gets revealed later on that he's kind of one of the people masterminding what's going on here with the drug, and he doesn't play his character any differently. Like, he's no more evil later on. He's just the same kind of a bit jovial, lighthearted. I love
the
that
nuance. The nuance isn't quite as there as what we see with Treat.
Oh yeah,
No,
for sure.
He's one level.
So Treat at this point is Roger Mortis is the serious straight edge cop to Doug Bigelow's more of the rigs to his Murtaugh, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So he starts the investigation, and it leads the sulfathiazole. They check out where it's coming from, and it's Dante Industries, right?
Yes.
Which is a great name for a chemical company.
Sounds nefarious.
Yeah. And we meet Lindsay Frost, who is I think the sister of Mark Frost, the co-creator of Twin Peaks, who's the PR person for Dante, and tours them through the building. And what a horrible situation! Just animal torture left and right happening there.
That's what happens at pharmaceutical companies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but dogs, just full-size dogs.
And here's where we murder the animals.
Yeah.
Like there's a chamber that we use.
The
we know
decompression chamber.
We know from A Christmas Story that Darren McGavin does not like dogs. So
You're right.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is the same character.
It's the connection.
I'm just saying.
By the way, if you haven't heard our Christmas Story episode, you can dig it out of the archives at reconciliation.com. Yeah, so why would you put down any of those animals who've been tested on humanely or with, like put them to sleep or whatever? You're going to put them in a decompression chamber, of course.
Yeah. Suck all the oxygen out of the room.
Yeah.
Let
It seems like
pass out.
it makes sense to torture them that way.
Yeah.
After you've done everything else by the book.
And it sucks the air out of the room and you just fall asleep, basically, is what they were implying.
Yeah. They were supposed to be within seconds, but we are gifted with a very dramatic sequence where we watch 5% of the time, 5% at a time, the oxygen being ripped out, and Treat Williams in an absolute panic because he's about to die.
Yeah,
it's kind of horrifying, actually.
Yeah.
He's aware of his own mortality, unlike the dogs.
Right. So, but we get a reaction shot from the dogs as they watch some of these shenanigans go on.
That's true. There's just caged dogs in a loose, on a cart in a loose hallway.
Yeah.
By the way, not to jump too far back, but remember the front desk guy looking at the porno magazine?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So weird.
What was going on with that?
Why this $1 billion company and your front desk dude is like a skeevy weirdo.
Yeah.
They're trying to establish that it's it's kind of a sham, this place.
True.
Yeah.
Because he ends up with a like a lot of characters with a submachine gun and
lots of
every
Uzis in this movie.
So many Uzis.
It was the 80s.
The Uzis are the weapon of choice in this film.
Absolutely.
And I love how a lot of the bad guys just think that I'm going to take this Uzi and just like stick it in my belt in my pants, and
walk around
that's how I'm
with
going to carry my Uzi.
That's where it goes.
Yeah,
That's it.
You're totally right.
So Doug sneaks away, and of course
sneaks away. Come on, it's the classic. I mean,
I have to pee.
Where's the John?
Randy James, the Lindsay Frost character, falls for the oldest trick in the book. Dougie B's like, oh, I gotta pee so bad my teeth are floating.
Oh,
thank you for that.
She's like,
oh yeah.
Go to the bathroom, dude.
And he and his cool leather jacket slip away, and then he comes back to there's a toxic waste, a room that's labeled like toxic waste. So he takes his ID badge that they gave him, which is just a laminated piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And like
visitor pass.
His visitor pass.
It's just a piece of paper. There's no laminate. It's just like
he sticks it in the like ID scanner and like breaks in basically to the toxic waste room, because you'd want to go in there without...
that's like, if you're even somewhat educated, I think your least likely place you would want to end up is anything labeled toxic waste, even if you don't believe what they're saying.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be here.
On the off chance it really is a toxic waste room.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't go in there.
He was really gambling.
Don't short circuit that door with your piece of paper.
Yeah.
Stay out.
He took a chance, but he did find like a sci-fi cool like chamber, like this,
Yeah.
like right out of Stargate, like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
this
The
thing was-
regeneration chamber.
The regeneration chamber
It looked really cool.
with a little surprise waiting on the table for him, right? It was the so a regenerated biker? Is that like
Yeah,
he looked like a biker dude?
Yeah, why was his
Yeah.
face in two?
Why
What
not?
happened
There
there?
was, yeah, like a triple
Yeah.
double face or something. I don't know. Like this, well, like they're trying to like push it like they're like this Frankenstein type, right? So
Yeah.
maybe like he
Didn't come back together right.
Yeah.
the later in the process, the more monstrous they are, I guess. But
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense unless you like actually, operate it and put another face on there. I don't,
Yeah.
but I think it's just a good scary look. It's just a good horrifying look.
Yeah, it looked great.
And
Yeah.
he has so Doug has this like knockdown, drag out fight with this biker zombie that goes out back into the hallway. Do they knock Roger into the? Is that how he gets in? I forgot. Does he get
they, like-
pushed
Yeah,
into the
yeah, he
chamber?
gets,
they
right?
bumped
he gets
him or
kind of
pushed
stumbled
him.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, the door locks behind him, and immediately it turns. Oh, we see a mysterious
No
figure
fail safes.
turn the machine on. No fail safes. You're right.
Nope. The door closes, you're doomed.
Yeah. And then, as you
Forever.
mentioned, David, 5% at a time, we watch as the air starts to get sucked out of this chamber that was supposed to be instantaneous.
And poor Piscopo is doing all he can to fight the double-faced biker and save his friend.
It feels
He's
like
really
five-
regretting that he used that piece of paper on the other door, because he might have been able
Yep.
to use that piece of paper on this door.
True.
It's true.
It feels like 5 straight minutes of this scene of like cutting back and forth between Roger like desperately trying to get out of the room and calling for Doug, and Doug's fighting with this zombie guy, and just back and forth and back and forth and it's and
epic
Randy
battle.
James has run off and run away, so it's just this going on. Finally, Doug beats the zombie or gets him down, and he just has to watch as Roger like drops dead.
I feel like he could have tried to do more. Shoot the glass, maybe hit the other button on the door. I mean, it wasn't going to work.
Or
He only hit. There's 2 buttons. He only hit the one.
Yeah.
Like,
or taking that fire extinguisher he was using as a weapon to like bash in the glass. Yeah.
just anything.
Yeah.
Just give me anything.
But I guess standing at the door saying, Roger. Guess
Yeah.
that's enough.
He got his Oscar moment right there.
Yeah, that was it for sure. And then thankfully, our friend Rebecca shows up right after they get the situation under control. Rebecca shows up, and they have the great idea of we're right next to the next room over is a regeneration machine. So why not bring Roger back?
Yep.
And she
No
knows how to-
ethical issues.
No.
Let's just do it.
yeah,
Let's
and
go.
she knows how to operate that machine immediately.
She is quite impressive in this film.
Yeah,
I have to say, she knows all about the drugs. She knows all about the facility. She knows all about regen machines that no one knows anything about. But she just pops up all those buttons, boop, 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 and we're good to go.
I think she watched a lot of MacGyver, and so she
he was
like,
big at this point. Yeah.
into it.
That's why I said, thank God she's in this movie, because the movie would have been over by this point.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then it would have been the Doug Bigelow story.
Dougie B.
Doug would be planning a funeral and and a memorial service,
Yeah.
and go back to busting heads on the streets. That zombie fight though, between him and the zombie, the big biker guy, and the shootout in the beginning, it's like this just excessive, like just the number of gunshots in that opening sequence is like insane, and like it just keeps going on and on and on and
It's endless.
and
No
like
one really reloads either. They just keep shooting.
there's no reload.
It was the
That's same thing.
80s, guys.
Yeah.
It was the 80s. Who needs
like
that
not-
kind of detail?
Have you not seen Last Action Hero? It all is
Commando.
explained in Last
Commando,
Action Hero.
yeah.
like when they're at Randy James's apartment, and then the 2 zombies bust in, and they just have two Uzis, and they're just shooting, and like they don't stop. Like that magazine, those magazines easily would have run out.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And it's just lots of Uzi play. It's just it's hilarious.
So after this, Roger is brought back to life, thank God, to help us get us through the rest of this movie. And the investigation begins. Then it's a lot of, your standard cops, working the beat. They're checking what Dante Industries is really up to and where this chemical is being sent, which leads us to a sequence in is it a butcher shop with Key Luke from Gremlins and Professor Toru Tanaka from it's an old time wrestler and also the Running Man, played Sub-Zero in the Running Man.
Right. Yep.
Which is one of the like crazy sequences in the movie. And it's revealed that they're like sulfathiazole is being Dante Industries sending this chemical to be put into the food so that everyone's going to eat it, and they're basically it's a way for them to control everybody, right?
Yeah, it is. This scene is one of my two favorite scenes in the movie. It is batshit crazy. And if you're a fan of Chinese food, makes you think twice before the next time you go get Chinese food, because it's all killer. All the Peking duck, the Mongolian beef. It's all gonna trying to kill you.
Seeing all that meat come to life was just so unnerving.
Yeah,
and
you want to be a vegetarian.
Yeah, totally.
I think Joe Piscopo even says that.
Yeah,
he does.
He does.
And it's a huge battle, in this. I guess the back of this Chinese restaurant that
just happens to be a regeneration room as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right above where they're talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And is it a liver that attacks Roger right in the face?
I don't.
It like alien style face huggers him.
Yeah. Another scene that reminds me of Return of the Living Dead, like when they're in the basement of Return of the Living Dead, and that half dog comes back to life.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is a cousin.
I would like to just take a moment to say that the puppet work, the stop motion work, the makeup in this film are all really good for being on such a minimal budget. I guess I'm a huge fan of that type of practical effect anyway, but it looks great.
Well, and that was one thing that did get a lot of praise for the movie was this scene. Like people really seem to really like it.
I mean, my other favorite scene in this is the one in the shower room where Lindsay Frost's character melts.
Yes.
That's another one where the practical scene is just
another
like,
great stop
shit,
motion
awesome
moment. They look great.
That scene is really, really well done because I mean, I watched it a couple of times and I felt like it was really hard to see how that gag was working. It looked so real and it was all practical.
Yeah.
Like her face, like she just literally right in front of Roger just melts and decomposes and we're jumping ahead a little bit, but it's fine. That she kind of reveals what's really going on and what Vincent Price's character was sort of up to and what her real backstory is, that she was also dead and regenerated. And apparently that's when her time was going to run out. I don't know how they I think she really explained how she was able to just expire like that.
Did that come out of nowhere too? Because
out of nowhere, yeah.
It was like, by the way, here's a curveball. She's also dead, and she's just gonna evaporate.
Yeah,
we're cool, right? Let's go.
Well, she had like 5 reveal or
it was a
switcheroos. There was a lot of switcheroos with her character.
Oh, that's right.
Like, wait, you're what?
Like Vincent Price was my dad. Well, he wasn't my dad. He sort of adopted me, and then it was just one thing after another.
And then,
But my favorite moment is like after she's melted, basically, she's still speaking to him and begging forgiveness. Yeah, and clearly she is just a skull, like no brain, no vocal
meat.
cords.
There's no meat left on the bone.
But she's still talking to him.
Yeah.
She's trying to apologize,
Yeah. And Roger is like, pretty quickly decomposing through our act 2 of the movie.
Yeah.
That he gets some makeup to put on to try to make him look more human, but that doesn't really work. And then every action scene when those two other zombies show up at the house to attack him, and he gets shot. But in one scene he bleeds, in other scenes they say he can't bleed. So I don't know.
I think some blood was spilling out, but there's no pulse to push the blood out.
Right.
He's not gonna bleed to death. So he still has bloody wounds that stain his suit coat.
and
but he gets
Treat's really like, I don't want to. He's not hamming it up for these, but he's really playing into the fun of the like. It's clear he's having a lot of fun with this character.
Yeah.
Agreed.
He's almost like an indestructible superhero in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean, as perfectly displayed at the very end when he's going in guns a-blazing and all the Uzi, he's just like taking Uzi fire from all directions, and he's just like, it's not phasing him.
Yeah.
It's just like
that last 15 minutes of the movie, I could have had another 90 minutes of.
Oh, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to there, though, so it ends up where Doug is killed.
Yeah, when did that happen?
You don't see it. Like you
guys
split
remember
up.
when that happened?
You
Does it
split
just
up.
happen?
Yeah, why? I think I was trying to figure out. I even went back and I was like, why are they splitting up again? Why is he's just going to go home and watch TV while his friend's deteriorating?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Yep.
You
Well, and
know,
then
you
his
need him to do
reaction when he's back alive, he's like, "Oh, Doug, you're alive." Well, when did you see him dead? Like, there's, I think, an edit in there that happened that didn't quite tie everything together.
Well, the scene,
which is crazy to think about. It's well put together as this movie is, but something didn't quite add up.
When Roger finds Doug's body, like he's upside down, and is it a fish tank that he's in?
Yeah, I believe it's.
I did not even put that together that was Doug for like 5 minutes.
No, you can't even tell when they show you the face of the person in the tank hanging upside down and suspended in water. Like you can't tell that that's Doug.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
they say his name, but that you have to catch it. Because he's like he's bloated corpse face guy.
Right.
So he doesn't, it doesn't look like him. So
the only thing you can recognize is that permed hair.
And that
but
leather
that's
jacket.
all wet.
And it's all wet upside down. Yep.
Yep. You got nothing.
So then it becomes like Roger's movie, because Doug, this is like what, I don't know, 60% of the way through the movie, and Doug's just out, which I did not remember at all.
Nope.
And then Roger's got to do the investigation on his own. He ends up getting, he confronts Darren McGavin once he's put it together that, the body doc is the one kind of who's been really working with Dante Industries, and he gets caught and thrown in an ambulance and like handcuffed to the guardrail, and there's another body in the ambulance, and who is it? It's our lovely Rebecca.
She died off screen.
Off screen. Yeah. Second death off screen.
Everyone's dying off screen.
Yeah.
Dead heat.
This is
that really bummed me out too, because I was like, her character was so important, and
they're never going to figure anything out from this point forward.
How are they going to do anything?
This is basically like the moment, spoiler alert, when Cormac McCarthy kills off the main character in No Country for Old Men. That's how I felt when I saw she was dead.
Yeah. I was like, well, they have to bring her back, right? That's that was what I was thinking till the end of the movie, and then nope, they're not gonna.
No, she's not coming.
She's just dead.
Kill everyone.
Yeah. But so he ends up like setting the ambulance off, like driving on its own, so it'll crash, right?
That was an incredible sequence.
I didn't understand what he was doing there.
Well, he was gonna remain trapped there and decompose and die, I think, right? Was that the idea? He was gonna. Yeah. So they kind of imprison him in it, like, it's soundproof, like, and he just manages to dislodge the parking, take it out of park and put it in neutral, and so he knew he'd survive. He thought he'd survive, like, and humongous, spectacular, explosive car crash at the bottom of a hill.
How many innocent people got
Yeah,
killed in that accident?
Well, like they don't say it in the film, but like, I mean, like they sort of allude to it that like because he's dead now, like nothing matters, right? So
yeah, he doesn't care.
He doesn't
like
care.
He's gonna die.
So
he has one thing on his mind, and that's revenge.
Yeah. Well, I think I would think that too. It's like, well, if I'm dead, like I'm dead. Like who's everybody
coming
dies.
With me?
Who's coming with me? Like everybody dies. I have one mission.
Yeah.
Which is such a weird thing to like.
Yeah.
Like he's but he's not actually dead. Like he's still kind of alive until he's going to decompose. So, but
his only emotion is revenge.
Yeah.
Well, he sped up the process of decomposing by doing that little ambulance stunt because half of his face is gone afterwards.
Yeah, but he looks pretty kick-ass.
His hair transforms. Half his face is
he looks like a zombie rock star.
Yeah,
he
looks awesome.
And definitely treat having, I think, even more fun when you get to this point. Probably not so much fun putting that makeup on every day on set, but definitely fun with that character. And then we get the final confrontation where he returns to Dante Industries, and I think the big showdown's in the regeneration room, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where it's revealed that a couple of reveals that Vincent Price, who we thought was dead, is actually alive, and he's yet another mastermind behind the plan. And Doug Bigelow is the next subject of the regenerator. So, and they try to set Doug. We have a little moment between Doug and Roger where Doug's attacking Roger, and Roger talks him out of it, him back to his senses.
Got to make him remember.
He reminds him of the lipstick that he put on earlier to hide his
cherry blossom.
decomposition.
What was the color?
Mulberry?
Mulberry, yeah.
Mulberry wine. Yeah.
Yeah, mulberry wine.
Yeah, it was that, and we both have to have a death day, and it's that unlocks his memories, and he's back.
But he looks the same. Like he does not look zombified at all.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he would have died. So
he even though we saw two faces like the biker from earlier.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think the biker had been regenerated multiple times. That's
maybe
could be.
Yeah, and then we get our final action sequence, and our two heroes. Literally, I would say they live to fight another day, but they don't.
No, they walk out.
They slowly die.
Yeah, like they're gonna melt
the light.
Yeah,
together.
A cloudy, they walk into a cloudy mist of white light. And,
the best performance or the best line delivery is at the end there with Treat, because the dad, of course, from Christmas Story, will not give them the satisfaction of taking his life. He Uzis himself in the head, of course, because he's got the Uzi. Everyone has Uzis. And then Treat is like a close up on his face, and he's like, you cheated me or something like that. And he walks up to the body, and he's standing next to Piscopo, and he goes, "Damn you, McNabb, you cheated me!" And he screams and he shakes his fist, and it's. I mean, if you get a chance, please seek this moment out. It is. It was like that moment in Deep Rising. I rewound it like 20 times, and I could not stop laughing.
You cheated me. God damn you, McNabb, you cheated me!
It's amazing. You cheated me. Oh man.
So all of our characters by the end of the movie are dead, and I guess it's a happy ending. It's kind of like
well, wait, but like that's a Price or McGavin oozes himself, but then they bring him back up to life just to make him
to blow him up.
Yeah.
Like that's you forget you left that part out. Like that, like he gets his revenge.
Yeah,
he does end up getting it.
Resurrects him just to overload him in the system or whatever, and he blows up.
Yeah, he regenerates him when he's already regenerated, right? And he just It's
And our
like
heroes
like
do have a
microwaving
chance to
something with
live.
metal.
Our heroes do have a chance to live, because I want to say Vincent Price is like, no, we know how to keep you guys alive forever, and they're like, screw it, and they machine gun, Uzi the whole room up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just but double Uzis, and that's the end of Dante Industries, I guess.
That's it. Yeah.
I noticed at the end of the credits, a special thanks to Joe Dante, and I'm wondering if they named that after him or
Probably.
something.
I wonder
maybe.
if he did like a
Probably
polish on the script or something. And
yeah, I imagine like there might be some involvement. This seems up Joe Dante's alley in some
totally.
way.
Definitely feels like a Joe Dante could have directed this.
And also Dante Industries, the physical location is that Tillman water reclamation plant, which is a stand-in for Starfleet headquarters in Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Yes.
So we've seen.
Is that right?
That's right. And also, I think it's Bill and Ted University in the Bill and Ted movies.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Anyway,
I was also reading somewhere that I think they used it for Biodome or something.
Biodome.
Like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
They did.
It's got a great like space age / futuristic look to it. So anytime it pops up in media, I love to see it. I've never been there, but it's just it's right in Van Nuys, like next to the Japanese.
I feel like I
garden.
have been. I've been to that Japanese garden. So
so it's like right there.
It's not too late, David.
It's a destination. It's an LA destination.
Reconsider a field trip.
Yeah, let's get down there. Take a little big. Yeah. Anyway,
send me the waiver so I can have my parents sign off. I'm in.
I think this movie is so much fun. Like going in, I didn't remember it being as fun as it was. I don't know, like maybe I took it more seriously last time, but this time I had a blast watching it. It's
a lot of fun.
It doesn't take itself too seriously,
Yeah.
No,
it knows what it is.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Some of it is really, really bad. Like some of the dialogue is really ridiculous, but some of the things that are done well are actually pretty impressive. And it's a nice little mix of both. And it is a lot of fun. And the tentpole like action scenes are crazy and exciting and just like bananas and very entertaining.
Yeah.
The soundtrack is solid too, actually, I have to say.
Yeah.
I was too busy looking at Joe Piscopo's hair. I didn't even notice. But
we get a little we get a fair amount of sexist comments from Joe. Those don't age very well. Maybe a little bit racist in the Chinese, restaurant sequence, but it's not. I mean, again, it's a product of its time. Should we see how it did at the box office with a little box office glory?
Number one movie of 80. Oh, never mind.
No, close, very close. All right, Dead Heat had a $5.5 million budget. It was shot over 37 days in late 1987. It was released May 6, 1988. It debuts at number 5. Against other new releases that week, Shakedown and Salsa. I don't know what Salsa is.
I remember Salsa, but I don't remember Shakedown.
Shakedown, I want to say, was Sam Elliott and Peter Weller. Another buddy cop movie.
Wow.
I think Salsa was a dance movie, right? Kind of like Lambada.
It's either
it had
either about dance or toppings. I don't know.
Picante sauce.
Chip toppings.
Yeah. Okay, and it was number 5. It was between Salsa and Above the Law, which was in week 5. Opening weekend, it made a whopping $1.6 million for a grand total domestic run of $3.5 million.
Oh,
yikes! Top at the box office that weekend was Colors in week 4, Beetlejuice in week 6, and Shakedown at number 3. Okay, it landed at number 140 in 1988, right between Imagine, John Lennon, and Baghdad Cafe, which was a an independent film. So really,
this is why we did not get a sequel.
this is
Yeah,
exactly
well,
why.
and everybody's dead. But
Well,
Yeah,
hold on. They
listen.
before the movie
We can
came
defy
out,
those laws somehow.
yes,
before the movie came out, the studio they were talking about a sequel and how they would do it, and they'd have to, Terry Black was like, well, everyone's dead, like there can't be sequel. And someone from the studio said, well, you have a regeneration machine, just fucking use it.
Right.
Like,
this is the easiest to solve.
yeah, like you literally have it as your
And
plot
he's like,
point.
do I have to think of everything, Terry?
Tops at the box office in 1988 was Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Coming to America, and Good Morning Vietnam. Overall, would you say this movie, does it fall into that category of so bad it's good, or is it not quite one of those?
I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't think it's one of those movies.
No, I don't think so. I think it's got a lot on its own merits to enjoy if you like this sort of thing. But and there's things to like, as we're pointing out, like the action and these special effects were really cool and kind of unexpected, I think, in the movie.
Yeah.
Like the quality of those special effects. But I did not expect that in this. And and then there's just the charm of the cast by themselves. Like everyone in it is worth watching. It's probably suffers most with dialogue. Like if for as silly as the story is and as very like thin as it is, it just sort of loses itself in like characters that you don't really get to know any character in any significant way. So there's like it lacks heart, like, but other than that,
I did sort of think too, I think I had written down in my notes, there are some missed opportunities, I think, for one-liners. I mean, I think Joe Piscopo says gross, like after something happens about 4 times. And I'm like, couldn't we come up with something better than that's gross or that's disgusting? It's like there are these moments where there are some missed opportunities, I think, in the dialogue where you're like, that could have been better.
Yeah.
I don't think it was obvious enough to the audiences then that it was really a play on. It's a play on, the buddy cop movie. We talked about this. It's a play on the Frankenstein films. It's a play on zombie movies. It's a play on so many different things that it's not a spoof. This is the same year as Naked Gun. It's not like that at all.
Right.
But your comparison to Return of the Living Dead, Brent, is, I think, spot on, because the tone really matches the tone of that movie, which is another one people didn't get. So I think maybe at that time we were still in the middle of those genres, right? That it wasn't, I don't think an audience was ready to kind of like start poking fun at that.
Ahead of its time.
Yeah, it was. Treat knew. He knew what this was, and he knew that 25, 30 years later, people are going to love this movie.
Or at least four dudes would.
Yeah, 4 dudes. Is it a cult classic? I don't even know if it's a cult classic. Like,
I don't think it really is.
I don't hear anybody talk about Dead Heat.
You know what? That's about to change when this episode drops. So
it's going to be the new.
I would say it's probably the number 1 buddy cop zombie movie that I've seen.
Yeah, it's fair.
Yeah, I'd call it the best.
Coming in second would be R.I.P.D. Is that
sure?
Yeah, distant second.
I don't know if there's zombies in that, but they are definitely dead cops or something. So.
Another face that we saw real quick in the early part of the film, the opening sequence, was Robert Picardo. Calling back to Star Trek. I mean, he's in many of the Star Trek shows and a couple of the movies. So great actor. Also was in The Howling, directed by Joe Dante. So all loops back around.
Another Dante reference.
Yeah, but
it's all connected to Dante.
Yeah. But I think, coming back to Treat, you can just tell he had a really good time with this movie. And again, it shows the range that he could do. 1979, he's doing Hair, which is a musical, and he's getting acclaim for that. by the early 80s, he's doing, serious movies. Like Prince of the City is a very intense movie, and, about, this group of detectives, and Treat is the lead. And it's really like heavy and long. It's kind of an epic movie, like a Scarface kind of, and great performance by him. Once Upon a Time in America is like arguably one of the greatest films of all time. It's on that list somewhere, but and he's got a kind of a smaller part in that, but definitely an important role in it. And then he's moving into movies like this where he's just having fun, and I'm definitely glad he did a movie like Dead Heat and showed that he can do more than just that serious stuff, that he's got a whole other side. He can do musicals, he can do comedy, he can do action, he can do drama. So and then going into the 90s, continuing that kind of fun with your Deep Risings and your Substitute sequels, and then eventually finding his way back to TV with some of the things that we mentioned. But there's plenty of great and whatever that means to you, great projects for you to watch for Treat in his library. So go check it out. Let's celebrate some Treat Williams, and gone too soon at 71 from a motorcycle accident, and he will be missed. But yet we have so much more Treat to cover on this show. We've just scratched the surface.
Just going to continue celebrating, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's no way we're not going to talk about Deep Rising. No way.
Just started.
Yeah. Jarrod, I'm so glad you got to come on finally in season 6, and I apologize it took so long to get the contract worked out amongst our legal teams to get you on here.
Well, when you're the Susan Lucci of the creative Emmys, it takes a minute. No, it was an absolute pleasure, and thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah.
Happy to come on anytime.
You'll be back, and we have many of these movies that we've covered. Jarrod and I had watched together, and Brent, we've all watched together, and back in our Santa Fe days. So we'll have you back for sure.
Yeah, we got to do a Coen brother marathon.
Definitely
make that happen.
I'm working on next year's lineup, and I see a little blood simple in there. So
forever young.
Nice.
Oh boy. All right. Guys, if you haven't already, check out our sizzling summer of sensational cinematic shenanigans. It started with Megaforce. We had One Crazy Summer. We had Hard Ticket to Hawaii. We had UHF, and now we're wrapping up with Dead Heat. And we're going to shift gears as we head into the fall, but it's been an incredible summer here at Reconcinimation.
Hell yeah.
We've hit all of David's favorite movies.
Lot of new ones, a lot of new favorites.
There are a lot of new ones for me too. Some of these, and I cannot wait for the next group gathering to watch some of these together, because
absolutely,
I probably won't watch them by myself.
Well, stay tuned, because we are gonna in our next episode we are gonna return to the world of John Carpenter with one of his films that I have never seen.
Really?
Called Starman.
All right.
Get excited.
And we may have yet another special guest for that episode. But stay tuned for that. And, of course, check us out. We're on Reconcinimation Podcast on Twitter and Facebook and Instagrams. Check us out there. Hit our archives up at reconcinimation.com for our back catalog. Quick shout out to our friends E.K. Wimmer for the theme music, and Curtis Moore for the posters, as usual. You know what? Go on Apple Podcasts. Give us a 5-star rating, because you love the show so much. It always helps, and we would appreciate that very much. And we will see you next time on Reconcinimation.
Take care.
Bye now.
I'm dead, Rebecca. How much worse can it get?
The resurrection process has an unfortunate side effect.
Which is what?
all of the cells of your body will dissolve into a kind of organic stew.
It's disgusting. Entertainment is rotting flesh. I don't know what it is, but that's what the film is. It's you want to say, let's go have a great time. Let's go watch this ridiculously unbelievable plot and suspend our disbelief and have a great time. You know, okay, I'm going to believe this guy gets brought back to life and see what happens. Watch him chase down the bad guys. I think it's a lot of fun.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have another number for you.
Right here.
Jerry Lewis zombie.
Right here. Oh, I don't feel very good. I'm a zombie, Dean. I'm a zombie.
So we ready to No, we haven't been here too many hours, have we?
These were anywhere from 12 to 18-hour days. It was what we call in the business a tough shoot, but a lot of fun.
Stop that singing!
We had a lot of fun making it, and Joe made me laugh more than I've laughed in years. And so I'm hoping people will like it as much as we do.
Bigelow's great. Bigelow's like a lot like me. Just cruising through life, trying to have a good time.
Joe represents what the audience sees. Joe comments physically on what's happening. He sees things that are funny and he announces it. His character. Mine doesn't do that. Mine is the straight, dead-ahead cop. Everybody slows, at least. They may not stop, but they slow down when there's an accident. Let's face it. We are all fascinated by what could happen to us. It's not real. You know it's not real. It's special effects gone rampant.
Detective Mortis, homicide. You're a cop?
Surprise. But I think it takes the zombie movie to different heights. I don't know what direction it actually takes the zombie movie, but it's a genre of horror and comedy and zombies all thrown together in a kind of to me, it's the closest thing to going to that movie is like going to a fun house. You get scared, but in a fun way.
I can't do it. I can't live a lifetime in 6 hours.
Nobody's got all the time they need, Roger. Nobody. You remember when we were in training? They always told us you can't be a good cop if you're a dead cop. Here's your chance to prove them wrong. You're good, and you're dead.